Joining me in this special conversation, Michael Clarke, former Australian, and one of the most proud Australian cricketers I know. Always prioritized the baggy green. He's already spoken to Bharat Sundarasan, which I've seen about the importance of Virat Kohli and what Michael thinks about Virat Kohli going into this Border Gavaskar Trophy. Strong
Yeah.
words of support, exactly what Saurav Ganguly said. But I also want to ask Michael a couple of other questions as part of this interview. Michael, there is a lot of talk on Rohit Sharma. Rohit Sharma, captain of India, one of the best leaders. He's not traveled down under for the first test match because of the birth of his second child. My position is this is a personal call. This is the birth of his child, for God's sake. He has every right to do what he has done. There is so much talk. No, he should have gone, etc., etc. Where do you stand on this? Is it a personal choice according to you? Do you have a position on this? Would you have done the same? How do you look at this, Michael Clarke?
Buddy, to be honest, the greatest day of my life, over any cricket event, over any test match victory, over any captaining Australia, the greatest day of my life was the day my daughter was born. And being there for that moment was the most special moment of my life. So 100%, if I was having my daughter and I had a game of cricket on, and I love cricket, I love representing my country, and I love captaining Australia, but family always comes first. It has to. So being there for my little girl, I do it every day of the week. So I completely respect and agree with Rold's decision. I've no doubt, in an ideal world, it would have been great if his second child come, a week early or 2 weeks early so he could play every test match. Rold loves playing for India as much as I love playing for Australia. He's a great player. He's a wonderful captain. He'll be missed. There's no doubt about it. But every single person must respect that decision of any man.
So clearly, I mean, there is sport, but there is life which is beyond the
Yeah.
test match. I mean,
Yeah.
unfortunately, we build cricket events or any for that matter in a manner that this is the be all and end all of the world. Unfortunately, that is not the case. There are
Yeah.
relationships. Think about it. Touch wood, they've had a baby boy and all is healthy at the moment. Think
Yeah.
about it. If Ritika needed Rohit at that point in time and he was not there, would he have forgiven himself for the rest of his life? I wouldn't have. I would give an
Yeah.
arm and a leg to be with the family.
Yeah, and that's why it's personal, because everybody's different. And I think a lot has changed in and around decisions like this as well. If I think of, times gone by, my grandfather's era, for example, my grandfather's decision might be different. My father's decision might be different. I don't know. I haven't asked them and they've never been in this situation. But my decision, personally, would be exactly the same as Rohit Sharma's.
Great, clear words from Michael Clarke. Clear words from Michael Clarke. Uh, Secondly, the other question that is doing the rounds, Michael, is about the IPL auction. A lot of people are saying, "Arey, why are you scheduling an IPL auction in the middle of a tour, in the middle of a test match? Why would you do this?" My point is, the IPL is one of the greatest innovations. And if you are a professional cricketer, you are one you have to focus, and most of the players are either retained. In fact, if there is a problem, it is more on the side of Australia because most of the Indian test cricketers are already retained. Why should the
Yeah.
IPL auction be a distraction if you are a cricketer at this level? A Rohit, a Virat, a Jasprit, Bumrah, all of these
No.
are retained, or most of them are retained. Your thoughts?
Definitely won't be a distraction, certainly for the Indian players. There's no doubt about it. Look, I love the IPL. It's a tournament I've been so lucky I played in, but also now to still commentate and be a part of that. It's one of the best tournaments the game's ever seen. So the IPL auction is exciting. It's great for people to see. It won't be a distraction to the players. From an Australian perspective, I'm sure the players that are in that auction will definitely take notice, but they can do that either before the test or after the test match. Again, once you walk into a cricket change room, you don't have your phones. You don't have access to internet. So that will be something they'll look at outside of game time. But no, certainly from an Indian's perspective, I don't think it'll be a distraction at all.
Even from an Australian, I mean, I can't imagine Mitchell Stark or Pat
No.
Cummins. Pat Cummins is retained. Mitchell Stark thinking of which team I'm going to when he's bowling for Australia at the
No.
Optus Stadium.
No way. And test cricket's too hard. Trust me. There's a million distractions that happen on a day-to-day basis. When you walk onto that field, you have to be fully focused on what you're doing. And I've got no doubt all the players on both teams will be that. But the excitement around any part of the IPL, I think is great, especially from a fan's perspective. I love the following of the tournament. I love the build up to an IPL auction. So I see it. I think it's best for both worlds. I love that it's happening, but from a player's perspective, I don't think it'll change too much.
Michael, I've been following. I mean, my people are already there, and they've been sending me Australian newspapers. Every day there is a piece on Virat Kohli. The king is here, the king is back.
Yeah.
And I love the build-up. I even saw Hindi newspaper articles, Punjabi newspaper articles, Australia's gotten behind. Your thoughts on, you've already spoken to Bharat on Virat, but if I could request you to kind of set it up, Saurav Ganguly in an interview to me said he's backing Kohli. He said this could be the last time he's there for Test cricket. I'm backing him. The pitches would suit him. Where do you stand on this? Where do you see Virat Kohli in this series?
Yeah, look, the excitement here in Australia is huge. I think even the history and tradition around the Ashes series is massive in Australia and in England. But I think even the Australian fans are seeing this tour. The fact it's a 5 Test match tour again as well. It's as big. It's as big as any Ashes series. So India also won the last 2 times they've been here. They'll be confident in playing these conditions. You're a silly, silly person to write off Virat Kohli. There's a reason. Over a long period of time, statistics don't lie. This guy is a great of the game. And yes, his form probably isn't as good as he would like, but tell me a Test cricketer that has played that much cricket that doesn't go through a form slump or doesn't go through that highs and lows. The bigger the occasion, the more the pressure, the best players stand up. And if I was the Australian team, I'd want to be so disciplined at the start of this tournament and try and keep Virat's scores low. Because if he makes runs in this first Test match, his confidence then goes back through the roof. He'll be hard to stop. He's dominated Australian conditions. I think he scored 600s in 13 Test matches. If I was an Indian fan, I wouldn't be too worried about Virat Kohli. I think the bigger the occasion, the more this man has always stood up.
And if they sledge him or if they come at him, he will get pumped up. Very much.
I think that's what he wants. I think that's what he's always loved as well. He's that type of player. Any sort of conflict, he'll always stand true to himself. He'll always back his team. I hope the Australian players are not that silly. I don't think they need to say much to Virat. It's not what you say, it's what you do. I'd be concentrating on bowling in the right areas, trying to work on any part you can, find that outside edge, hang on to that catch, and just worry about getting him out.
The other question I wanted to ask you, Saurav Ganguly was of the opinion that India should play with their best spinner. I've seen Ravichandran Ashwin being sort of left out in the WTC final. India suffered. His record against Usman Khwaja, Usman Khwaja averages 10 against Ashwin. Smith averages 30. Manas averages close to 40. Nobody averages more than 50 against Ashwin. Do you see that as a big call for India? Ashwin, Jadeja, Washington Sundar. What would you have done as captain, Michael, if you had such quality spinners? Would you prefer batting and get in somebody else, or your best spinner as the specialist?
Well, I think they should look at each Test match. Look at the pitch. Obviously, look at the Australian lineup, but I've been more focused on what conditions are in front of us, and I'd be picking my best spinner if I'm only picking one. There might be an occasion where India can play 2 spinners. I just think I don't think you should go in any conditions with preconceived ideas. I think look at conditions, look at the weather, look at the fast bowlers you've got. Have you got an all-round option? Have you got someone that can bowl some part-time overs? I'd be looking at that sort of thing. Ashwin's record's phenomenal. He's been a great bowler for a long period of time. He's got plenty of experience. Jadeja's done extremely well as well. And he offers handy runs with the bat, but so does Ashwin. Ashwin's batting in all conditions around the world has been a lot better than people give him credit for as well. So, I wouldn't be looking too much into saving runs with my spinner. I'll be looking at taking wickets. Who's our best spinning option? If we're only picking one, who's our best spinning option to bowl Australia out twice? That's how India's won in Australia. You've got to take 20 wickets. So, again, India know what they're doing. They've done it well here. They've won the last 2 times. I think if they've had the same attitude, play the same brand of cricket, I think we're in for an absolute cracker Test series.
I'll put you in a spot. Where do you stand on Gautam Gambhir? Because you're a straight talker. BCCI.
I love him. I love playing against him.
Between Ricky and Gautam, Saurav has said, let him say what he wants. Let Gautam say. And don't judge him in 2 months. The BCCI got him.
Yeah.
He's one of those characters who will speak his mind. How does Michael Clarke look at Gautam Gambhir?
Look, I get on very well with him. He's a straight shooter. He was tough. We competed hard against each other on the field, but I respect him a lot. I think he's done a lot for the game of cricket. I agree. The BCCI have backed him and made him coach. Rahul Dravid did a fantastic job, but they found a new coach, and it takes time for everyone. So I believe this in any sort of leadership position. If you're going to back someone, allow them to do that job. So as a captain, allow that person to captain. As a coach, allow that person to coach. And give them time. Give them time to find their feet. Winning and losing is part of the game. You know, I know all Indian fans will be disappointed with that New Zealand series, but now's an opportunity for the players and the coach and the captain to turn things around. Come to Australia in conditions that are hard to win in. India have found ways to do that, but back themselves and play that same brand of cricket. I don't think Gambhir's got to worry about too much. I think this Indian team knows when they look in that change room, there's a lot of experience, there's a lot of good players, a lot of players that have won and beaten Australia in these conditions. So that's what I say. Of course, I want Australia to win, but I want a great test series. I want 5 test matches where someone wins and someone loses. I want to see a result in every test. I think the forecast weather-wise for the Australian summer is fantastic. So hopefully we don't see any rain, we see great cricket, and may the best team win.
Final 2 questions. One, a word on, because you have been through very tough times yourself, Michael, and you are one of those people all of us think about the 2007 World Cup, hearing about your dad going on to play. You've had tumultuous personal things as well. Rishabh Pant coming out of that accident where he faced death, literally faced death to come back and do what he's doing. How important is Rishabh Pant going to be, according to you, in this series? And it's such a life story for all of us.
Yeah, look, to be honest, I couldn't be happier for anyone more than Rishabh Pant. I think it's an amazing story. What a tough journey. True character, hard work, dedication to just get back onto the field, let alone to, be back playing at his best. I think, and I've said this on my radio show here in Australia, I think Rishabh Pant technically is good enough to bat in India's top 4 if needed. I know he's got a wicket keep. I know it's hard on your body. I know there's 5 test matches. And if he bats at 5, 6, 7, he'll have major impact. If Virat Kohli is the leading run scorer for India in this series, which I think if India to win he needs to be, Rishabh Pant will be second. He'll be very close. He's technically, in Australian conditions with a bit of extra pace and bounce, he's good enough to bat in the top order. He's good enough to face the Australian quicks with that brand new ball. He'll take Nathan Lyon on. He won't back down against that challenge. So he's as important a player in this Indian team as anyone else.
Very interesting, very strong words. And finally, Michael, leader. One of the best leaders I have seen is you. One of the best was Saurav. I asked Saurav this, I'm asking you this. First test, Jasprit Bumrah as leader. You've seen him closely. Rohit won't be there. Jasprit will lead the team. First test is always very, very important. Your assessment of Jasprit as bowler and leader, can he kind of do the job for India in the absence of Rohit Sharma? Michael Clarke.
He's the best bowler in the world across all 3 formats. There's no doubt about it. He's as confident as I've seen him. He's bowling as well as I've seen him. He'll want to dominate this series, and what better way to start than be captain? Look, I haven't seen him captain, but I've seen him bowl. I've seen him in the field. I've seen him play for India and be a senior player in that team. I think it'll inspire him. I don't think Bumrah will shy away from one thing on that cricket field. I think he's got leadership qualities. There's no doubt about it. He's vice captain of the team. Give him a crack. If I was India, I'd be backing him 100%.
We are all talking about the fragility in the Indian batting order. Australia doesn't seem that great either. I mean, your thoughts on both? Is it going to be which batting unit holds up against quality fast bowling and spin that will decide the series? Because Australian batting hasn't been too great either in the recent past. Your thoughts?
I think both teams have got a lot of depth with their batting, but both teams' form individually is probably not as good as they would like. But I think wickets, I'm interested to see what pitches Australia produce. What I've seen in domestic cricket here is a lot of sideways movement. I don't know if they'll do that in the Test match. And when I think back to when I played, it used to be a little bit similar, where Sheffield Shield cricket, it felt harder to bat in those games than it did playing in a Test match. In Australia, generally, you want the Test matches, and the states want the Test matches to go minimum 4 days, hopefully 5 days. So I think there'll be a little bit in the wickets, but I think they'll be good for batting. So I wouldn't be writing off both batting units. I think there's a lot of experience. A number of players have been the number one batter at certain stages in their career in the world. So you don't write those type of players off. So I think, yes, how you face that brand new ball in Australia is always important. Good discipline, shot selection, letting the ball go well. Get to lunch. Australian pitches are great for batting. So I think the bowlers are going to have their work cut out still in these conditions.
I'll end there, Michael. I'll end there. I mean, look forward to catching up with you over Christmas in
You too, buddy.
Melbourne, and then obviously seeing you in Sydney at home, because our daughters will meet for the first time. But my takeaway from this interview, 3 takeaways. 1, Michael Clarke backing Rohit Sharma clearly, saying he would have given anything to be with his daughter when she was born. Number 2, he's saying no distractions whatsoever for the IPL auction if you're a professional cricketer. Mitchell Starc, for example, would not be thinking about it at all. My multiple takeaways, and he backs Virat Kohli strongly in this particular interview. So we will see what happens, but very strong words from Michael Clarke as always. If you were an Indian cricket fan, I think this is an interview you can't miss. Thank you, Michael, as always.
Thank you, buddy.
In Australia.
Thank you.